From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log, our pro-democracy headquarters for the duration here. I hope you'll remember that this is a long haul. We're in it until we win. Keep your spirits up. Keep your health, physical and mental well-being up. All the while knowing that this is a marathon. We're in it until we win it. So, as always, let's start with some updates here. We're still in our Target boycott. Boycotts are important. The greatest powers in the world, no matter how powerful they may seem, all rely on our patronage in the end. It's our dollars that are sucked up into that rung of power. They can't exercise that power without it. So boycotts are central, and I'm imploring you to make these permanent boycotts. Whatever you think you might need from a Target store, you can probably find somewhere else or get along just fine without it. Also on the calendar, the Nestle boycott begins March 21st. These week-long boycotts scheduled here by the People's Union USA, they're kind of at the heart of this. After Nestle, it's Walmart. And then our big economic blackout number 2, that's everybody on April 18th. Then coming up, General Mills, Amazon. And again, I recommend that we all join a permanent boycott of all corporate products to the best extent you can. Sometimes there's no getting around it. I understand that. So with a handful of exceptions of absolute necessities, I'm not going to judge anybody, but I am asking you to join me in making this permanent and across the board. So the Nestle boycott, if you're unaware, Nestle is a huge conglomerate. It's more than that little candy bar you might pick up at the convenience store. No, they make dozens of beverages, including Pellegrino, Ovaltine, Nestea, Nesquik, a whole lot of others. Nescafe coffee, Taster's Choice. Just looking at a list here, there's about 20 different coffees. About at least 100 different waters. Yeah, bottled water, including Perrier. Yeah, I think it was a Nestle executive a couple of years ago, very open and vocal about privatizing all water sources. That water was not a public resource. Yeah, that's the kind of people that occupy the offices of Nestle. Nestle makes a couple of dozen different cereals, including Golden Nuggets, Golden Grams, shredded wheat. They might be best known for their candy and baked goods. So the famous Nestle Bar, Nestle Crunch. This list just goes on and on. Hundreds of different brand names. Smarties. Do you know what Smarties are? So check the label on your sweets. Also frozen foods, Hot Pockets, DiGiorno Pizza, Stouffer's, Tombstone Pizza, Drumstick, the ice cream treat, Haagen-Dazs. Yeah, this is all Nestle. What else here? I'm looking through the list. Lots of items under the category of healthcare nutrition. Instant foods, including Gerber baby food. Boost, which is some sort of a performance enhancer, I guess. They took over Purina at some point. So Friskies, Purina dog and cat food, Alpo. So check your pet food. Yeah, Nestle is everywhere. They're just everywhere. All right, let's look at some upcoming rallies. Sunday, March 23rd, Rally to Save the United States Postal Service. Find where that is in your city. April 5th, nationwide protests and sit-ins. That's from 5051, so check them out, 5050.1. And make your plans now. Look ahead for May 5th, the Meta boycott. Of course, Meta includes Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Threads. Always a lot going on. Easy to find. Check them out. because at this point, silence is complicity. I know it sounds cliche, but it couldn't be more true. We talked recently about some good advice I heard, and that is that one of the reasons to speak out is that it gives other people sort of a permission structure. It kind of helps give them a little courage. Well, if they hear one person speak out, and then a second and a third, it's a lot easier to speak out yourself if you were hanging back a little bit, a little shy, a little reticent. So when you speak out, it can have a ripple effect. And this advice I heard also said to literally wear it on your sleeve. You know, wear an anti-fascist t-shirt. I myself have an anti-fascist baseball cap, which I painted myself. And I painted Impeach Trump on the back of my backpack that I use every day when I go for groceries. So I have that. I'm wearing that every day when I go out into the world. So I took that advice. I think it's good advice. And you can find buttons and bumper stickers and all those sort of little small things. They seem small, but I think that's great advice. Be loud and wear it literally on your cap, on your sleeve, on your shirt. April 1st is a big day. It's election day in a lot of places. Spring election here in Wisconsin, maybe the most important race in the country. We've got an opening on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, and one of those candidates is being heavily funded by Elon Musk. $100 million this election is going to spend, much of it from Musk. It's a 10-year term. It'll tilt the court to a 4-3 advantage one way or the other. Cases coming up: redistricting, abortion, collective bargaining. And it's more than just your standard conservative versus liberal. This MAGA guy, is openly political, just way, way over the boundary for the office of Supreme Court Justice. He's an election denier. He's repeated those lies over and over. He openly fawns over the Orange Menace. He's very, very political. So that's happening along with, again, April 1st, elections. Early voting is underway right now, at least here in Wisconsin, where you are. Check that out. But many elections across the country, April 1st. So if you don't know about that, do your homework and make sure you vote. Let's look at some of the headlines since last we spoke. The courts continue to be on the right side of history. USAID shutdown likely violated the Constitution, according to one ruling. The town halls, the infamous town halls that are not being held by Republican members of Congress because their leadership told them just not to do it. It's not worth it. And we here on the log advised that you hold town hall meetings anyway, invite them, make sure the cameras get a good shot of that empty chair reserved for Congressman so-and-so. And that's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what's happening. All over the country. I've seen the footage. Sometimes the constituents hold it themselves. Sometimes a Democrat will hold the town hall. But I have seen that exact footage of the empty chair reserved for Congressperson so-and-so. So good for you. Protests continue across the nation. Keep it up. Again, long haul here. We can't lose spirit or enthusiasm after just a couple of weeks. Find your inner resources. Around the globe, I mentioned Greece last week. Add to that Georgia, Hungary, Romania, and Serbia. Massive protests. Hundreds of thousands of people filling the streets, protesting the worldwide fascist movement. If for nothing other than just competition, all right? Let's have a little team spirit here, USA. The world is beating us as far as massive protests. Let's get out there. Of course, the biggest headline of the week, as I'm sure you know, White House deported hundreds of alleged gang members but that's laughable. We know that's a lie. Just flew them to El Salvador in defiance of a direct court order. And yeah, we know, strictly based on prior performance and the smell test, that there's no way these were all Venezuelan gang members. And even if they were, the President of the United States is not empowered by the Constitution to deport them at will without any sort of due process at all, even if every one of them was a cutthroat Venezuelan gang member, which they're not. Over, I don't have the number in front of me, 230, something like that, loaded onto 3 different planes. Many of them, we have no idea. Most of them, the great majority of them, we have no idea even who they are. None. The few that we do know, families and immigration lawyers, are arguing for them, swearing up and down that they're not members of any gang. And this is only a week after they disappeared Mahmoud Khalil. Did the same thing with him, abducted him. ICE agents, without identifying themselves, literally kidnapped him, put him on a plane, and disappeared him. Family didn't know, authorities didn't know where they were taking him. And then it turned out later he was in a Louisiana jail. Again, without charges, without due process. And at this point, it really, as I said, even if they were all guilty as hell, the Venezuelans, Mahmoud Khalil, let's pretend for a second that they were all guilty as hell. It still doesn't give the president that right. He doesn't have that power vested in him by the Constitution. So that's why the courts are telling him that. And then he comes back with, Judge, you should just be impeached then if you disagree with me. This is 100% pure fascism, and there's no other way to describe it. There have been cases around the country where American citizens have been caught up in these little immigration raids. As I said last week, their whole big mass deportation promise has fallen through. So now they're getting tougher and tougher where they can find little excuses to do it with the limited budget they have. They're never going to get funded by Congress, which is what they need to actually carry out mass deportation. So they're just making these small deportations more and more cruel just to feel tough and to set an example. And then if you saw the propaganda little film reel worthy of Riefenstahl, the infamous Nazi propagandist, filmmaker, all of these Venezuelan men shaved bald, shaved their beards, in matching white tees and shorts, being marched out of the plane and into the facility, apparently a notorious prison in El Salvador. El Salvador providing this service for the low price of only $6 million. Yeah, $6 million bucks will get you a couple of hundred Venezuelans jailed in a notorious foreign prison for a year. Pretty good bargain. Rounded up without due process, without a hearing, without being charged of anything. Just grab them, defy a federal judge who ordered you not to do it anyway. And I'm calling them Venezuelans, but we don't even know that much. We have no idea who they are. If they have green cards, if they're American citizens, what nationality they are. Yeah, I ranted pretty good about Mahmoud Khalil. One single green card holder abducted and disappeared to Louisiana, and warned that that's just the opening bid. And here we are less than a week later. Who is next? And the justification they try to use, right? Oh, well, we are at war. That's how I can use this 250-year-old law. We'll just call it a war. We'll call the southern border an invasion. You just call anybody a terrorist. Well, Mahmoud Khalil is a terrorist, obviously. See, this was my thought going into January 6th so long ago. I think the Orange Menace was counting on Antifa and counter-protesters to get in a big ruckus with his boys. And that way, he could invoke the Insurrection Act and thereby cancel Congress's certification of votes on that day. I think that's what his plan was. But Antifa and the counter-protesters didn't take the bait, so that never happened. So he had to kind of improvise from there. But he continues to play the same game. He's so transparent. Oh, just declare an invasion at the border. Claim that Tren de Aragua is a terrorist group and has invaded the United States. Yeah, that use of language. Just the complete abuse of language. You know, all graffiti is not vandalism. All vandalism is not destruction of property. All destruction of property is not violence, especially if you compare it to actual violence where you hurt people. Yeah, you can't just call anything violence, which is what they do. They became masters of this during Black Lives Matter. Somebody spray paints the window of a CVS, and all of a sudden, they're violent radicals. They're terrorists. They did the same thing, this abusive language regarding the whole Israel-Hamas thing. A pro-Palestinian protester is not a pro-Hamas protester. An anti-Israel protester or anti-IDF is not anti-Semite. A person who opposes Zionism does not oppose Judaism. You can't just equate all of these. That is a cynical abuse of language for the sake of exercising power, and it's heinous. Every protester is not a criminal, and every criminal is not a terrorist. You can't just take that leap. But they do it all the time. It's part of their MO. Their abuse of language for the purpose of political power is absolutely reprehensible. Speaking of Israel, full-blown attack on Gaza. Netanyahu promises this is only the beginning. So we knew that when phase 1 of 4 different phases of this ceasefire was announced, we knew that there was very little chance we'd get to phase 2. There have been varying reports from 220 to up to 400 Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes, most of them women and children, just like always. In other war news, Ukraine. I don't have much to say about this except the headline that you've already seen. In separate phone calls with Putin and Zelensky, apparently they've both agreed to a partial ceasefire. They're not going to attack each other's energy infrastructure. So we'll let that develop before you and I have anything to say about it. I'm highly pessimistic about the whole thing, but I'll refrain for now. In other headlines, an executive order seeks to eliminate agencies that serve the homeless, fund libraries and museums, and report the news. Yeah, libraries are on the chopping block. Voice of America is on the chopping block. The Orange Menace, Dodgy, and his little billionaire buddy continue to take on the federal government with a fire hose in one hand and a chainsaw in the other. All unconstitutional, all illegal, all of it, every little damn bit of it. The Orange Menace awarded a $200 million no-bid contract to his friends to produce a series of anti-immigration ads featuring Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And it was just reported this week. Sorry, not funny. It's just gross. He said, this Kristi Noem telling somebody backstage at CPAC, quote, he said, I want the first ad, I want you to thank me. I want you to thank me for closing the border. I said, yes, sir, I will thank you for closing the border. Yeah, so he wanted her in the ads because he thinks she's hot. And the first thing out of her mouth had to be thank you to him. So I mention that only because it's just so freaking gross. He's fired the Democrats on the Federal Trade Commission for how many decades now. The way the FTC is set up, it's always 3 members from the majority party, that is the party holding the presidency, and then 2 members of the minority party. It's exactly the same way the FCC is set up, Federal Communications Commission. And you know that's next. He wants all MAGA FCC, and that's right at the top of his agenda, of his fascist agenda, is to destroy the free press, because that's what fascists do. He's already been threatening, and he's already had many victories in that regard. The Washington Post opinion page is now a mouthpiece for right-wing propaganda. There's self-censorship everywhere. Millions of dollars flowing from major media concerns to super PACs or presidential libraries or inauguration funding. So, these independent commissions, Federal Trade, Federal Communications, the Federal Elections Commission, of course, works the same way. You know they're next. Unless I've missed a headline, unless that's happened already. And as I need to keep saying, all of this, every bit of it, is unconstitutional. It's an abuse of power. He's exercising power that he does not have. Impeachment. Impeachment. Now. Yeah, I know we haven't got the votes. Of course we don't. That doesn't stop you from writing up the articles of impeachment. I guess Texas Representative Al Green, who interrupted the Orange Menace at his recent speech to Congress, waved his cane at him. I guess Congressman Green is working on that right now. I'm not sure how far along he is. But let's go, Democrats. And you might think this is ridiculous, but when things are escalating this fast, as I said before, we go from one student protester to 230 unknown people tossed onto a plane to El Salvador and to prison. That's quite an escalation. Things are escalating so fast in every area that, call me naive, I can't help but think there might be a handful of Republicans who finally stand up and say, wait a minute. And a handful of Republicans is all we need to impeach his ass back to Florida. Republicans, it's in your self-interest. Any Republican members of Congress listening right now, save yourself. Save yourself now, or go down with him as history's villains. Those are your choices. Republicans, impeach Trump right now. You'll get every single Democrat in the House and the Senate with you. Well, that just leaves President Vance then. Okay, well, just tell President Vance loudly and clearly that he's on a zero-tolerance watch. 1 inch outside of the law, and it's impeachment for you. 1 strike and you're out. Republicans, do the right thing, if for no other reason, to save yourself from being the greatest villain and or the greatest fool of the history books. Speaking of the history books, a little aside here. I came across some really good advice. And that is for all of us to document MAGA. Because when we win, and we will, there's going to be a big movement to erase history. Oh, I was never part of that. I wasn't MAGA. I never supported. No. We can't let them get away with that. For the sake of future generations, we can't let them whitewash history. So the advice of this person, who I don't even know, I don't remember now who it was, but I thought it was great advice. Document it. Take screenshots. Build a file on your desktop and fill it with screenshots of headlines, of quotes, especially maybe like comment sections, the comment threads in your socials. Keep the receipts for the sake of history. This is a crowdsourcing kind of thing. This is a group project. Everybody can do it. And then maybe at some point, some very clever person with the right resources can create a place where we can share all of this documentation. But for now, this is something everyone can do. Document MAGA. Document the crimes. Preserve it for history so that future generations will have a leg up, a little bit of an advantage if this ugly thing rises again. Great idea. I love the idea. And before I go, I want to give you something that I've alluded to before. I've promised this for a while. Give you a couple of ideas on what to say when that reporter puts a microphone in front of your face. At some point, it's going to happen when you're out there, because you're going to be out there every weekend at some action, right? Well, these people are reporters. They work hard. Help them out. Make their job easy. The easier you make their job, the more likely it is that your message is going to be used in their report. So give them just a little who, what, where, what the journalist wants. My name is Bob. I'm a teacher. I'm concerned about education. And then just give a little example. Well, the gutting of the Department of Education will hurt low-income districts, will hurt special needs kids. My name is Philippe. I'm a first responder. I'm concerned about the lack of federal funding for local resources like emergency rooms. So just tell them who you are, tell them what you are, tell them what you're concerned about, give a little concrete example. My name is Marie. I'm a parent. I'm concerned about the environment. I live with my kids in a low-income neighborhood that has higher cancer rates and higher rates of asthma. And the defunding of climate initiatives is going to hurt me and my family and my neighbors. That's gold for a reporter. They're going to kiss you. And you're going to get your message across. So be ready. Have your little thing just ready to go. Who are you? What are you? What are you concerned about? Give them a little example. You can even take the initiative. If you see somebody with a microphone and a camera, go ahead. Walk right up to them. I'll talk to you. All right, so there's my little advice for the day. I want to invite you to listen to this weekend's program. The weekend show, Charles Purcell Presents, doesn't always get dropped. Sometimes I'll take the weekend off. And when it does, it's only there for a day or two in your feed until the next Monday, the log pushes it off your feed. So I say all that just to remind you that there is a new episode this coming weekend. 4 short essays. We kind of go up 30,000 feet and take a kind of a big picture look about the influence of money and de facto systems on political theory, and some recommendations for media outlets. We talk about media a lot here, but these are specific recommendations for resources, platforms that you might like to try out. If you're out there sort of searching for reputable media and generally disgusted with what you find, as I often am, I put together a list of recommendations. So do look for that weekend show, Charles Purcell Presents. All right, so that's it for now. This and all other episodes can be found at the website, charlespurcell.com, or on your favorite platform. River West Radio is our flagship terrestrial station, riverwestradio.com. Follow me on Facebook and contact me, charlespurcell@gmail.com. Peter Donalds wrote and performed the theme song. All right. I love you. See you out there.